you want waffles?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles. Home is the same theme music as a Hidden Valley Ranch commercial. That's not a joke. Grace was scrolling on TikTok yesterday and got an ad from Hidden Valley Ranch for the they have a Cheez-It flavored ranch. And was like flipping through and she goes, "Wait a second." And she like turns up the audio, and it's the same theme music we use in this Hidden Valley Ranch Cheez-It commercial.
I have never been more ready to sue anybody more than right now. Even though we both bought rights to a song.
Yeah.
Those bastards.
Don't they know? This is
know.
the theme music, and they used such a small segment of it too. It's just the like I tried really hard to find that ad on TikTok before the episode started so that I could like play it to show you. But because it's an ad, it's not technically like a video, and so it doesn't like come up. And I'm very sad about it. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's a weird energy in here today. We're dying. We're not.
I'm not dying. Great. I just haven't come unalive, undead yet. Yeah, I haven't woken up. That's all. You ever do that thing where you hit snooze and you meant to hit snooze but you hit sleep?
You ever do that thing where you snooze
me.
the sleaze up?
You sleaze up that button.
You ever sleaze up that alarm? Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles. We're a TTRPG morning show, and this morning is a weird energy. Every once in a while, Junie and I get in a call, and we're like, "What do you want to talk about?" And then Junie's like, "I don't know, taxes."
I say a bunch of things. I say so many things, y'all.
And I say, "I don't want to talk about taxes." And Junie says, "No, but taxes are so much fun. I'm a big old numbers fan." And I say, "Junie, I don't like numbers." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "We're TTRPG morning show. We should probably talk about something with TTRPGs." And he's like, "Well, I got a new phone. Want to talk about Google Pixels?" And I'm like, "Not until they sponsor us."
This bit sucks. That's all a lie.
I lost the thought train.
I said, let's talk about something sexy. And he said, I'm a coward. That's what really happened, everybody.
That does sound like me. I woke up to a text this morning that said, from Junie. He always signs his texts from Junie right at the beginning.
It makes it so much easier.
It makes it so much easier. Forget whole threads of conversations. Junie specifically requests that I archive all conversations from him after he sent them. So I woke up to this morning text. It says, from Junie, "We should talk about something sexy. I know you won't because you're a coward, but we should.
Delete my number.
Delete my number." Again, this is Junie. That's how he always signs off the message.
I have to bookmark it. It's just
it's like you're typing code where you have to put the like open and close.
I have it like pinned on my clipboard so I can just like, boop boop. But as you can tell, I've been watching a lot of Bridgerton. I've been watching
Judy's been watching a
Bridgerton
lot of
since-
Bridgerton.
watching Bridgerton since 3:30 last night. So anybody else stay up till 3:30 watching Bridgerton because their wife was doing it and I don't watch it. I only watch it ironically, I guess. But here I am.
He says
Chock
he only
full of
watches
scandal.
he says he only watches the
There was air
ironically,
quotes.
but he
There was
has
air
mentioned
quotes
it
in
like
that.
5 times to me this morning.
Well, when you hey, okay, look, if you all right, whatever, you may be able to like have things and then like them exist on islands in your life, but everything is just bleeds into one for me. So like when I'm doing something, I'm like, well, this is all I have to talk about. This is all I'm one dimensional as fuck right now. So I'm watching The Wiggles and fucking Bridgerton. So that's all I got to talk about right now.
Yeah,
That's it.
those
Somebody wrote some shit, but I can't see because my glasses.
C17R said, "Okay, people, let's try this again from the top. Roll opening." Welcome
They
back
can't
to
hear me.
Warlocks Waffles,
They couldn't hear
TTRPG
how
morning
thick
show.
I was.
We're so professional here. For anybody who didn't see it, I titled this episode I forget.
Wow.
Tired, sick, and dummy thick. Because all 3 of those adjectives describe the hosts of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show. We are here.
We're here. We are very here. I don't I realized I did the thing where I responded in my head and didn't respond there, but I wanted to fuck, no, I did say something. I wanted to generate I wanted us to call it just like the scandal
Mm,
for today's episode and just talk about all the scandals that are happening in people's games
yeah.
and speculate wildly. But that's not how that played out.
That's
Um
a that's a lot. That's a lot of
mhm.
that's a lot of stuff. Welcome to Warlocks
Coward.
and Waffles, the TTRPG morning show.
I had a through that was gonna bring us home to like a good
Yeah.
TTRPG like through line because all right, hold on. All right, now this is all right, hold on to your pants, right? So it started out as scandal. I thought it'd be funny to write scandalous things, right?
Uh-huh.
And then it got to like a roller coaster a roller coaster ride of sexiness. And then I don't know, it was probably around 2 in the morning. Did something happen in Bridgerton, right? And I said, well, I just want to see no context, no spoilers. This is just the sentence that came out of my mouth. Well, I want to see that mom get busy. I said that, right? And then a handkerchief was dropped, and then a charming, handsome man picked it up, and I was like, well, that's how you pace a story. And then it turned into I want to talk about story pacing because I can it's one of those things that I can never do
Yeah.
on paper.
Uh-huh.
I am a very feel-based like storyteller. The story writes itself so quickly in my head. I'm like, this is what feels like it should go here, type of thing. And that bites me in the butt in the front end when I try to do something specific in my games. I always try to give people time to do this, and then I'm like, oh, I only have this much time. So I did once again sent it up here in my brain to you, but all that got to you was thickness and sass and scandal. But I did actually wanted to talk about how you pace. What have you learned in your life? What kind of lesson sauce have you spread on that sandwich of experience that you said I'm making it all as sexy as I can this morning? This is how it goes. Hunter, what kind of special sauce did life spread on your buns, your sandwich buns,
Well,
to help you learn?
bye
pacing?
everybody. We've been
It's
removed from
It's fading.
Twitch.
It's fading to black. It's fading to black, and I'm just
Oh
need to say,
man.
how many more things can I make it go up to NC-17 or R? Um, but yeah, I want to talk about pacing,
Yeah.
but obviously, this is where it gets to that point because I suck at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I spent this entire time going through loop de loops of sexiness and confusion. Oh, I feel like somebody said something.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yes,
somebody
yes, you did.
just
You did come
joined
in at the
the
wrong
joined
moment.
the chat.
Because we're
Um
talking about pacing, and sometimes you show up and you're just showed this thing, and you have to make sense of it. But you're here right when you need to be.
welcome to the stream. Um yeah, I mean pacing's fun. The It's a weird energy this morning. Um was there something specific about like pacing that you wanted
Uh,
to dive in on?
uh, more of like I said, I can be very reactionary, and I love telling people like how they can pivot and do those kinds of like on the spot changes. But my brain like functions like ChatGPT. It was the only time like I've never encountered technology that I felt like is me.
Mm,
I'm just fed inputs and whatever the current situation is out, and I churn out something that feels like it's appropriate to whatever the heck. But not everybody is cursed with a weird brain that does the neurospices like that. So, are there any tips and tricks, rules of thumb that you have or you've learned or seen other people do that, help with pacing or keeping something moving? I know I've done the whole keeping lists of names behind the DM screen type of
mm-hmm,
thing, random tables and such, but more barriers to use it, the easier they are to forget.
mm-hmm.
So I end up not using a lot of those and just relying on my brain instead of actually the things and tools and stuff that I set out for myself.
Right.
So, do you have any sort of pacing things, or did you have a fun pacing lesson where you were just like, "Oh yeah, the first time I tried to do a dragon, oh, I have one. First time I thought, you know what, I do a little fun level 21 shot with my friends, do a whole session real late, then I throw a Tarask at him because I thought that would be easy to run and use. Guess what, y'all? It isn't. That thing can do a lot. It isn't hurt by a lot, and I was like, yeah, I have to use it by the book.
Yeah.
So it took a very long time, and it was
Yeah.
not fun.
I notoriously will forget that I have like a combat I want to run for that session
Mm.
until very close to the end of the session. The I run for a lot of people who are very all over the place, or
Ooh.
they get like very into one specific thing or get distracted and stuff like that. Um you know who you are. Um
I'm right here,
this
man. I'm right
this then
here.
results in a lot of times where I will have like the beats I want to hit in a session, and we just are getting hung up on one little thing. And then there's not like a transition off of that easily. Or we'll get stuck in one thing, and then I still have things that I like need to hit for that session, and so start like rushing other things. It's really easy to fall behind in a session if you have like a specific spot where you are trying to end. It can be very, very difficult to uh, keep that pacing correct without it feeling rushed. Um, I think for me, I one thing that I started doing to try and help with that is to have um multiple different places that I could end, kind of like checkpoints almost of
Mm.
like I could end the session here. Um but if we still have like 45 minutes left, like let me push it to the next checkpoint. And that kind of gives me places to be like, this is a good place to wrap if I wanted to. But if I still have time, I can go to the next one. And kind of having those little like checkpoints makes it relatively easy to still like have good endings. Um my one of my players in a session I think last week was like, yeah, Hunter's been really into this drop a cliffhanger and then end the session nonsense. Because I've repeatedly been like, oh yeah, here's a pretty major reveal. That's where we're gonna end this week. Like we'll pick up next time. Um so there's a I like that ending.
Okay.
Um as far as like a hard and fast rule of like pacing, I don't necessarily have them. Um it's very fluid. Um I think my one like hard rule would be if I'm trying to make sure that something is moving correctly, there's kind of the pacing of a session and the pacing of a story, right? Like the overarching
That's
story
good.
has to have the pacing, but also a session has to have pacing. A session that doesn't have the right pacing will feel weird. Like if you get into a session and like the whole session is combat and that combat doesn't have any like changes to it, doesn't have any like rises and falls or
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
things
feel
like that,
dynamic. Yeah.
then that combat isn't going to feel um that session doesn't feel like there was as much accomplished as if you give even if a session is fully combat, if you give it those like rises and falls and make their story to that combat, then it still has that pacing to it. With the overarching story, it depending on how long of a campaign you're running, you can flex that a little bit more. My Tuesday group has been on this adventure that like I expected them to hit something earlier, but they didn't check back in on it. And so it wasn't something that they like even had the knowledge to start like looking into. And so we had some like
Mm.
other like side quest things, but because like those characters are all like I like those characters and they've got some cool dynamics between the characters, there was like other stuff that was kind of happening and being paced out, even though they weren't necessarily going across the like the main story. Um, but once they were on that track, then it picks up very quickly. Um, yeah. Do you have like specific like these are my rules of pacing for a game?
I try to do a bounce around where at least I keep everybody engaged. I can't count the number of
Mm-hmm.
times I've said the phrase after a lot of things have happened or sessions happen, going to you've all moved 2 feet because so many things can happen
Yeah.
and also not have happened. So that's both good and bad. Where it's just like, yo, y'all did nothing, or y'all y'all felt like you accomplished a lot, but in reality, you just bought a sandwich and ate it outside on the terrace, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, while you were talking, I had to control myself very hard because I did the best pacing thing of my life. I combined our last topic on Monday,
Uh-huh.
which was prophecy, right?
Uh-huh.
And Bridgerton, right? So here, check me out. Check me out right now. Check me out.
Mm-hmm.
Forget me later. Okay. So, what if we invented fuck today's topic? What if we invented a new style of gameplay? What if every session starts with a little gossip rag, kind of like Lady Whistledown. Do you watch Bridgerton? Do you know anything that I'm
I
saying?
have not seen a single episode.
Okay, there's like a gossip magazine
Okay.
pamphlet that has all the gossip of the town, right? I watch this
Mm-hmm.
ironically. I don't even like the show, right? Right? And just imagine a style of gameplay where, because it involves buying, you don't want to force a player to do this, a group to do this, but just imagine Hunter's leaving. This is how much he cares about this. But for everybody else, I know you're leaning closer to the camera and not leaving me. He went and got a dog like a queen, like a pretentious queen. He went and got himself a pupper to no. Okay.
He was being a needy little bastard.
Oh, perfect. Okay, but just imagine, right? Very eloquently and very like poetically laying out the like almost like a session recap, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the front of
Mm-hmm.
the session. And the game is now, if we don't make these things happen, reality breaks. We don't know who's writing this
Oh,
or
interesting.
why. But while we're figuring this out, like who did this so we can figure out how to stop it or who's having fun with this,
Mm-hmm.
we have to make sure that these things happen. So imagine the players controlling the pacing because they know every story beat that has to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and you just facilitating all the events and scenarios and counters. But they're like, bro, get him to cheat on his wife real quick. We gotta go stop that cart from killing that lady's dog. Hurry up. If you don't hurry up and make that person commit adultery, I'm gonna go find this dog to save. Hurry up.
That seems so problematic.
All I'm saying, okay, it doesn't literally have to be like old British scandal, but
Yeah.
just a recap where it's just like, oh, the unfortunate loss of the town baker due to that tragic dragon attack.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, these 4 heroes were there and it's just kind of like, oh, fuck, we're here, but we're also over there. Oh, okay, we gotta be there because this
Mm-hmm.
happens. And when it doesn't, there's some sort of, you either hit them with like some sort of like recourse, like they lose a level or lose something, or, and once again, this involves buy-in. You hit them with a Groundhog's Day situation where they only get to move on to the next issue of the
Mm-hmm.
pamphlet if they finish the first issue of the pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a player party controlled pacing. Just now, you have from experience more than me. Does such a thing, because I've seen people suggest, oh, have players take notes, like
Mm-hmm.
almost like taking some of the bandwidth off the GM and putting it onto a player. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
have the players track initiative. You know what I mean? I've seen suggestions like this. How does the concept of a player controlled pacing, like how does that check in your mind?
Well, I mean, it's kind of
It
twofold,
doesn't
right?
have to be
It's
sexy. It
the
doesn't have to be sexy.
because what you're describing is like it partially like it's player controlled pacing, but it's also like you're as the GM you've decided what you want to like what beats you want to hit, and then you're having the players figure out how to hit those beats. Is essentially what I'm hearing. Yes.
You are kind of giving them, like, if you were to just make like 3 bullet points for yourself, if that's your GM style,
Mm-hmm.
you are giving them that, but then what you have to do is you have to make the sub bullets that they won't see, because
Mm-hmm.
you're not giving them the entire session to control.
Mm-hmm.
You are giving them, these are the big things that you know would progress us something or other,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are, all we're doing is just facilitating the world moving and taking shape, right? So you are giving them the interactions, you are giving the world reaction to their actions and such,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that you're not intentionally holding them back from whatever. But it's as if, it's like it's buy-in that you have to have them, but it's like, it's like, oh, here's the task list, from the wizard's list of things you have to accomplish. It's just like the fetch quest type of
Mm-hmm.
situation, but it's on the front end and it's not optional. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we have to make sure we do these things. And instead of like, oh, like you had said before, like the whole prophecy thing where it's like, oh, you have to do this before the comet at the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like we need to do this before the next issue, whether it's daily, weekly, whatever it is. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Whatever you want to make that time frame, but just they know it makes them kind of like be aware of all the things that we are
Mm-hmm.
aware of already. Like, it's like, this is how time works here. This is roughly how long this takes. Or it makes them aware of it. It's just like, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. Okay, how much time do we have left? It's like, y'all did that in an afternoon, man. You have like the entire rest of the day to figure out what you want to do now because you did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, oh, so that kind of thing takes, oh, okay. And in the future, they can pace themselves differently.
Right.
But it doesn't make it so we don't have to do anything anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but it's making it so the possibility exists where it's just like they're taking those 3 bullet points and going like, I'm making XYZ happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, we did do it. And then you give them some sort of payoff, they're one step closer to whatever the mystery is, that's just, it's just the whole, it's just a mechanism to still progress the plot, whatever you were
Sure.
trying to make happen anyway. But it is, there isn't something like that I've seen used in this way, if I can recall.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked yesterday how like I feel like I'm out of touch with things. So if this came as like, hey, that sounds like the new, it sounds like the new Cobalt
You're,
Press thing that
yeah,
came out last
you're
week.
just talking about this new product.
You're just talking about this thing that everybody else does, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm glad that everybody's with it.
Yeah, I like the concept of like essentially giving the players a like a checklist almost of like, hey,
Hmm.
these are the things you need to accomplish. That's it's a very interesting mechanic to play with. Um, I think my instinct would be like it the if it's a thing where in game you have these things, um it becomes a little bit tricky of like how do you justify them knowing those things ahead of time, like you have to build a
Hmm.
whole game around that essentially.
Well, yeah,
um
yeah, yeah. It couldn't be something you just slip in. Like I said, that's why there would be buy-in because it's like,
mhm,
hey, you know, would you guys want to deal with like there's some, it's like a combination of like quantum leap. I don't want to say time traveler's wife, but like there's a time situation happening here of some way, or
mhm,
a god experiencing time, whatever you want to do, but like it's, obviously there's a level of prediction, and then what does it mean if it doesn't happen, or is it inevitable, like that kind of stuff. And
right,
you never want people to feel like, oh, you're just shoehorning this, or you're just making us do this.
mhm,
It would be like, well, the point of the game is you're trying to complete XYZ, and then what happens when you do, or they may know the general idea of whatever, but it might be fun to also describe events, and then when they're in it, they realize, oh, this was written from the perspective of somebody that saw, like, interpreted it very differently. You know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm,
Like something that could be like, oh, a savage ox cart attack was driven into the market, and then it's just like, well, that's not what happened. It was the ox was spooked, and not, it wasn't a malicious like
mhm,
driving into a market type of situation. So whoever's doing this is out of touch. Like it would
right,
infer like that. You'd have to, once again, just planning this as if you were doing a campaign like this, but just the idea, the mechanism
sure.
of
my
of a player controlled thing. Yeah.
my brain immediately took it, was like, okay, what if the, because I like this concept of the, you had mentioned like a newspaper, right?
Hmm.
And to me, I immediately think of like, it'd be really funny if it was like the Daily Prophecy or something like that.
Hmm.
And it's just like some like divination wizard who is like looking into like 24 hours into the future, and is like releasing a newspaper of like all of the things that happen, and like can like either the newspaper isn't, like you make it a very like specific thing of like either the
Hmm.
newspaper isn't selling well because like people just assume he's crazy, or like it's something where he's hiring the party to like make sure that these things happen so that people will go, oh my goodness, it's just like it said in the Daily Prophecy, and then the sales for the newspaper will go up.
It's funny. I thought of like if there's like some sort of arcane brotherhood or something like that that hires the party. It's like, look, one of our members means well.
Mhm.
unfortunately, he's a little too fervent in his craft, and if things don't go the way he lists, which they usually do, but if they don't, he tends to and then they just show a picture of like a crater where a house was or something like that. And it's just like, and he doesn't
You
want
ever
to hurt
heard of the
people.
Grand Canyon?
And while we do reserve the right to, if we need to, taking him out, we
Hmm.
do think that he does mean well. So we actually don't want you to take him out, but just kind of help make sure things happen. It's usually things, and they think it'll be like cat in a tree type of stuff, and then every once in a while it's just like, you know, the Duke's mansion's on fire, and it's like, whoa, okay, hold on, people might die there.
They
Hold on,
wake
what's
they
happening?
wake up in the morning and there's just a newspaper sitting next to them, and they're like, "Okay, what do we have to do today? The king was assassinated.
Oh
What?
my god,
Why?
we gotta assassinate a
We
king.
gotta
Oh man.
assassinate the king today? It's a Tuesday."
But in reality, you're just helping the king get away so he
Hmm.
can go on vacation. And then, when he comes back, he's resurrected.
Hmm.
Cause, so it's kind of like, oh,
Because
maybe
the
we don't have to
news
kill
has
him.
to be accurate, but it doesn't need to be true. Like it needs
Ooh, that's a weird statement, Hunter.
the
That's a tough one you just put out there.
it needs to be an accurately perceived news
Mm-hmm.
piece, but it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be the true news. Like so
Mm-hmm.
uh the king could be assumed assassinated,
Yeah.
and the general public could think that, but in actuality, like he just had to get away for a week and he'll show up next week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like
And the news would
the
be like King miraculously revivified
yeah.
against all odds.
Imagine
Son outraged.
Imagine though if you have it be like the king was assassinated and the party goes and they assassinate the king. And then like a week later they open the newspaper for the day and it's like king returns from vacation, wasn't actually assassinated, was an elaborate ruse, and they're like, "Well, how do we pull this off?"
Actually. Actually, this would be really funny. All right, you write 52 sequential newspapers, right? And you dump them all in front of the players and go, "These all have to happen.
Oh
Make
my
sure you get the make
goodness.
sure you get the order right." It's just like, "Yo, are we supposed to send the king on vacation before he's dead, or is he dead? Oh, no, he's dead. Hmm. Okay, so we're gonna have to make it that he faked his death and then came back from vacation."
That's really
Oh
funny.
man, we really didn't look through these boxes, did we? We really should have looked through these boxes to kind of like make sure we weren't like, shooting ourselves in the foot type of situation here.
What would be really, really entertaining is having the party then have to like, if they get them just one at a time at first,
Mhm.
and then there's one that just like drastically contradicts something that they did previously, and they're like, oh no, and they have to like break into wherever the newspapers are being printed
Okay.
to like steal the backlog of like these are all the newspapers that are all like ready to go.
Okay.
Maybe it's like not a it's
I,
not a
I
full like it's not a full newspaper, it's a column in the newspaper, and it's just
oh wow.
somebody said gave the newspaper a stack of like 52 sealed envelopes, and every week they like open it and print the predictions that were in that envelope for that week.
That's interesting.
um
Uh, I, I I imagined a real depressing scenario, uh, and this is spoiler alert for this campaign that doesn't exist. But it's all the things are coming out in order and stuff like that, and they get one that's out of order, that's like, just too far ahead or too
mhm.
far in the back, and it's just like, "That's weird, like, that doesn't make sense," and it really reignites or comes towards, like, the part where they're about to discover the source of this, and you just find out there was a wizard that just progressively needed to know what the future held because they hated going forward not knowing in life, so they
it's
built
it's
something.
just a wizard with really bad anxiety.
No, it's worse. Well, no, you're right, but it's like it's they built something to crank out a printing press, a
Uh-huh.
magical printing press that prints out these things. And of course, everybody would want to know this, so he makes it so it prints out enough, like to ship and stuff like that. Um, but it's a lot easier to just read about the world and read about what's going to happen than actually going anywhere. So when the
Mhm.
players actually do find it, they find like one of those situations where it's a dusty room and a skeleton and thousands of newspapers at their feet and machines over there still cranking them out. And he died a long time ago.
Mhm.
This machine is just still doing what it's supposed to be doing. No one's actually sending these. No
Yeah.
one's actually controlling these, but they can now be used maliciously because they can be taken out of order or they could
Mhm.
confuse people and like all that kind of stuff. Uh, just really fuck up the pacing of your story, which is what we were talking about today. Just, just really mess up the pacing of your story. Um, we love talking about problematic things in here in this show. Uh, if you had to
That was an
have like,
extremely uncomfortable laugh.
okay, good, because that's where I need you to be. That's that pocket, right?
Okay.
Now,
I'm scared.
good. So, check it out, right?
Mhm.
Uh, obviously, if this was, I like the idea what you said, a column, right? Because that makes it way easier to put it into something else.
Mhm.
Because I'm thinking like, oh, yeah, you have to put it into like, you have to make this that everybody has to buy and stuff, but like putting a little thing in a paper that exists and then kind of like making that a fun little side mystery if somebody wants to go down that route or like making, that's really good. But then I was thinking like, okay, other columns and such like that, right? And I thought about how this can be abused and such.
Mhm.
So I automatically jumped to like a Back to the Future, Marty McFly, like the sports almanac. Like this has the results of games
Mhm.
where like gambling, like thieves guilds, or like
Mhm.
people that are just like, we can make money off it. We need to find the source of this. So we will always perpetually be able to make money. Right.
Right. Yeah.
What other
Oh,
kinds of
a
column?
thieves guild running a like a betting ring
Yeah,
based around
exactly.
like okay, what are the odds that the king is assassinated this week?
Correct. And
Yeah.
they know all these things. So like a sports thing, but like what kinds of columns, scandals, obviously within reason. I'm not saying we go full ruin people's life or make everybody at the table like, I actually don't want to talk about that. I'm talking about like, okay, a theft. Like what kinds of articles, columns, what kinds of things do you think would be in like a future paper like this that people could use? And this is with the risk of the 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 paper itself is already a potentially like tangent generating thing.
Mhm.
So someone like me would have to be very careful because I know I run the potential to like always introduce something cool, but then also make too many cool layers to something. So it would be like the future paper with the main things, but then
Yeah.
also there would be like the betting situation
Mhm.
involved too hard into there. And I'm like, oh no, they want to. There's one guy that wants to like really like sports almanac this and make a lot of money at the same time, and he's taken away from this aspect. Mm-hmm.
Can I pitch
What?
you something
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I just thought of that I need to say before I forget it?
yeah.
Um what if this newspaper is a newspaper that is controlled by like a mages college or something like that,
Uh huh.
and so each of the different like sections of the newspaper are controlled by like the heads of the different schools of magic. So it's like the obituaries is the like necromancer, and the stuff that's upcoming is divination, and like every school of magic has a like different type of article that they put into this newspaper that they release, and then be
This is
and
changing from a prophecy text to just literally like a school paper at this point.
well, it's the prophecy stuff is like in there. It's the
Yeah.
divination, like
Yeah.
the divination section is like the weekly predictions. But the rest of it is like slow, like different things. So you have like illusion,
Ooh.
evocation, transmutation. Like each of them would have a type of
Oh.
article that they
I,
put into this paper as well.
I
And then because it is because it's just a bunch of mages putting out a newspaper, like that's why everybody has access to it, because they just magically send these newspapers to like all
I
the major cities.
I what well, here's another thing. What if it's okay, here's a good one. There the team is brought on by this mage college
Hmm.
to stop a string of murders, right?
Hmm.
Because what if this publication is only to organization members? What if it's like the college or the brotherhood or whatever it is, like the organization of these wizards, they know that because of how their magics can be abused,
Hmm.
our members are vetted. We know somebody's not going to take this interesting article about how to turn zombies into bombs. They're not going to actually do it. They're just like looking at the theory of it.
Hmm.
And somebody isn't going to look at the divination part and go like, "Oh, I can capitalize on this." And they're like, "Oh, interesting." Right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
somebody's going around to members to get their papers because all
Mm.
normal people can't get the paper. So it's like,
It's like a top secret organization mailing list.
correct. Exactly.
That's interesting.
You can't just get on the mailing list. You have to like do this, and it's like maybe they're like, you could spin this a lot of ways where it's just like, hey, I need you to get this. It's like a rich person. It's like, I want to know when I die. I
Yeah.
want to know ahead of time I'm gonna die. So I need you to steal this. Or maybe it's a real like philanthropic benefactor. It's like, I need you all to go to college. And I need you all to get on this mailing list
I'm going
because I
I'm
want to know
going
when I'm
to
gonna die.
pay for your
I'm gonna
college.
pay for your college. And
Um
that's how you do, yeah, that's how you do like the college one, the college campaign. And it's just like, we're all going to college so we can earn these papers. So we can basically give a rich guy the knowledge when he's gonna die.
the concept of combining like essentially combining like Waterdeep Dragon Heist and the uh what's the school
It's
module.
escaping me right now and it's
um
pissing me off. It's right on my shelf somewhere.
I don't have that one. The like essentially combining those two of like you're
Mm-hmm.
going to school, you have to do all the school stuff, but also you are there to like steal the thing that is going to let you divine when this rich guy is going to die.
Correct. Nothing weird about that.
I like the concept of the party being like sent in to do this. That's fun to me.
Mm-hmm. Because like we got to bring everybody in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
How like doing it as far as like columns is kind of interesting because then I was like, all right, yeah, then it's not a full what do you call it? Now I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah, it's not a full like they got to check off everything. It's like, oh, there's just one condensed thing that is talking about this.
No, Junie. It is
Hmm.
it's like 21 Jump Street. It's they're being sent undercover in this in the well 21 Jump Street's the high school, but like 22 Jump Street is the college one, where they are like sending this like highly specialized group undercover. You have to pretend to be a high school student or a college student or whatever. You go undercover and do this heist. It's like 21 Jump Street is like law enforcement. This is the flip side of that. It is like a heist group that is assembled and then sent undercover to like embed themselves in to steal this.
For
The
everybody, it's not a
concept of this campaign is so fun to me.
For everybody, there's a few things that need to be clarified. One, the campaign setting that we were talking about at school was Strixhaven. I looked that up.
I'm
That's
glad
the
you found it because I was trying to find it and absolutely could
Yeah,
not.
Strixhaven is the thing. 221 Jump Street is a movie reboot of an older property.
Yeah.
that I have watched neither and only have the
You haven't
vaguest
you
of
haven't seen
idea.
the movie? So
No,
the
I only know premises.
original
Yeah,
is very interesting. I liked it a lot. The movie is one of those movies where like I would never I would never sit down and go, "You know what I want to watch? 21 Jump Street." Like it would never occur to me. But it is a movie that I have watched probably a dozen times.
interesting.
Because if it is ever on, it is such a solid choice to choose. Or like if you're flipping through things to try and like find something you want to watch, uh that you like find that one, you're like, oh yeah, like I haven't seen that in a bit, we'll watch that. Like it's a very, very fun movie.
I I can
Um
articulate now why I've never watched it. First it's because it just never happened.
mhm,
It's one of those things like it's like, oh, it got by me and it just like I just never happened. But I've had many people tell me, yo, what? You gotta watch that, or like, hey, let's watch something like that. And I would just like, no. And I realized why I never watch it because it was I discovered it again while I was watching Bridgerton last night. Whenever there is and I can't turn off my social awkwardness and anxiety empathy like
mhm,
meter thing. So if there's like a specifically like ultra embarrassing, ultra cringy moment or something like that, like
mhm,
I almost like I do get up and go to the kitchen to get something to drink, or that's when I go to the bathroom. So I can hear it from far away, so I know what's going on. But like I don't need to witness that because then
sure.
I get the like ASMR like and because it is, like, specifically high schooly type of scenarios of that, I know I must have known in my heart, you don't wanna like, I don't do horror movies because I don't, for fun, go to feel fear.
Mhm,
If my friends are all doing something and I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna be that guy, I guess I'll do it." But, like, there are a few things I don't choose to do if like, I won't go to feel a bad feeling.
mhm,
Like, "Hey, I'm gonna go watch this drama so I could be sad repeatedly.
yeah,
Let me go watch, this thing where it's, like, constant like social like cringe whatever." So while I recognize people love this movie and it's probably real funny, there's a lot of good moments, I know that there's some real
oh
awkward
yeah,
probably moments
yeah, yeah,
that I could not want that I would not want to willingly handle repeatedly. So it just hasn't happened for me, but it's really funny because this is I imagine I actually know a few people have said like, you haven't watched 21 Jump Street, like in the same way you were like, what, you haven't watched it?
yeah.
It's real funny.
It's a good one. I love the idea of doing a campaign of like you have to be undercover as
Yeah.
college students.
Yeah, but
That's
you let the
that's
party
so
all make their
fun.
own characters,
Yeah.
and then for the barbarian, it's like, okay, so look, you have to use this axe is your focus, okay? And you're gonna have to, do things like and it's magical, so it's gonna be like this will make it look like your attacks are
Yeah.
magical in nature, and it's just like you're just hitting with the axe, but what they
You
see is like a magical bolt or something.
the way you do this is you set up ahead of time with the party. You guys are a specially formed heist team. You are like extremely skilled, like you are like you've been put together for a very important like infiltration heist. Everybody build your characters, and they all build their characters, and they like build their characters as like these very, very like skilled people. Then you start the campaign mid other heist. You start it
Mhm.
in like they've almost completed this other heist. They like get the thing, they bring it to their benefactor, like another job officially taken care of. And then like the advisor to the person they were working for or something like that is like, hey, you did a great job. Like, I know this other person who's looking for a crack team. Are you looking for more work? And then you take them and bring them to this benefactor who's like, yes, I need you to go undercover as college students to steal a magic ball. Um, the the because if you give them the like you are a crack team like heist squad, there are
Mm-hmm.
going to be people that make characters that are like so scary.
Oh,
That are
oh,
just
they're
like
gonna be so
so
edgy. They're gonna. Oh
edgy
yeah.
and terrifying. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I do need you are going to be enrolled in the chess team.
Oh god, it's yeah. You're taking eyes. If for anybody that's like, oh, I couldn't do this like thing myself, or like where you need inspiration, like what I always say, grab skeleton pieces from like other campaigns.
Hmm.
There's keys from the Golden Vault. That's a
Hmm.
heist campaign designed literally about getting the keys to a vault. So there's like 13 separate mission like things
Mm.
you can just use then steal from. There's one where it's like, oh, you got to go to a casino. That could be like a school fair, easy.
Yeah.
Everything could be
Yeah. Yeah.
reflavored. But like that, Strixhaven, you said the heist from Waterdeep, Dragon
Hmm.
Heist.
Hmm.
Like you can just cobble this together from so many different pieces, and it would it would work.
Yeah. You want to get
And
real crazy, you start pulling from Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Just
ooh,
put this insane dungeon below the wizard school.
mm,
Um I love that concept. That's a lot of fun. Um I I would love to see like somebody show up to the game and be like, uh okay, I'm playing this really just terrifying like bugbear, and like I've got like just matted fur and scars and big teeth and like all this. I'm a barbarian. And they're like, great, your alias is Chester Farthington, and you are going to be a mathlete and on the chess club. And now that bugbear has to wear like an Argyle sweater vest and a tie and like little glasses with tape in the center. And it's just like I love
that
I love the concept of the identities being just incredibly wrong. Like
that's really good. And I was gonna say juggling when I was doing running Feywild, juggling the idea of like a character within a character
mhm,
is always fun because it's
I'm
like
playing this
how do
character who is playing this character.
yeah, how do I
Mhm.
address so and so, and then slowly but surely that just becomes their name. Like, have you ever met somebody where it's just like their first name isn't their first name? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Where it's like their last name. It's like it's sometimes just like, oh, I use my middle name, or like it's a vibe, and it's like, oh no, we refer to them by their last name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just kind of always worked out that way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's oh, we had two
one of
mics, so it
one of
was
my brother's
easier.
friends is like always referred to as his last name. Like
Hmm.
when I said that, I just had to think if I actually could remember his actual first
His
name,
actual
and
first
I
name,
I
yeah.
do. But yeah, like it's always his last name or like a shortened version of his last name.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, as people know, when this isn't a Bridgerton fan cast, this is either a Mass Singer or Survivor fan cast. I didn't realize this. I guess I didn't realize how being like a last name kind of person can be almost like a. I know it can be like a vibe, but I'd never encountered somebody that like they choose that. I guess
Mm,
like in
mm-hmm.
my personal experience, I had never encountered that, and there was a character, a guy named Jelinski, and he was like, "Oh yeah, name's Jelinski" or something like that, and people were like, and people then later going, "Oh, big move, going to be a last name character," and I was like, "What?" And it was he wanted to be known by his last name. That then
Mm-hmm.
some people it's easier, but like it was almost for him, it was like a choice,
Yeah.
and he's like now made fun of. He was the first person out. He's been made fun of this entire season because aside from the like, it's one of the. He was like, yeah, like very confident, like I'm gonna be here till the end,
Mm-hmm.
and then to be kicked out. And I think it was something like, oh yeah, there'll be several of these, and he's like, Jeff, you said several, and they're like, okay. He's like, several for several. I picture anywhere from 5 to 7. And then they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, a couple is like one to this, and then a few is this, and several means this." And everybody was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" So he's just been like spontaneously shitted on throughout the season after having left
Mhm.
in the beginning, but it's just like the vibe of you give like what you said, like the characters that like don't make sense. And it's like the meek druid, and it's just like, all right, you are you are like Agatha Stonewall, but you prefer Stonewall, and it's just like, okay, all right, you have to
The
introduce yourself as
the
such.
concept of the benefactor giving them, like, "This is your new identity, like, here's your new name, here's who you are, here is your nickname, here is the thing that you insist people call you."
Yeah, here's your trait. Yeah, and it's like what, and this is so funny because this is gonna work really well for some people and some others not. Like
Mhm,
I personally love being given given things and going roll with it.
mhm,
Like make this happen. And if somebody ever asks me what my style is, it's so hard for me to define because it's always just so in the moment.
mhm,
And like it's like I call it like whatever the moment calls for. But just giving somebody something can either go, okay, cool, I don't have to try, or but some people will find it too restrictive.
mhm,
Um, but like being given like just something where it's like that, it's just like, yo, this is gonna be so much fun because once it's all up to interpretation.
mhm,
And once it's happening, it's not necessarily right or wrong. It's gonna be whatever you make it because the most fun story is the story that you all are telling at the moment.
right,
So it doesn't have to be like, well, yo, you're supposed to be like this. And it's like, this is what we were told, but nobody
right,
said like I had to, like, this is how my person does it. And it's
mhm,
one of those few times where this is how my person does it
mhm,
should fly and that's how it should be used.
right,
Not in the context of like, well, I'm chaotic neutral, so that's why I
right,
stole from the orphanage and I
mhm.
set everything on fire. No, if your character read like, well, this is their nickname.
You're making an assumption based on the
Yeah,
information you've been given, yeah,
correct. Yeah. I advocate for like constructive use of this is how my character would do it type of
mhm.
situation. It's like,
I
don't not do it, but hey, come on now.
It
Uh,
especially if you do this as a, like, if you do the thing where you start them in a different heist,
mhm,
and, like, you preface it by, like, telling giving them an expectation of what the game is going to be, and, like, starting them mid-heist, you get a chance to see how they play their, like, existing characters and how
mhm.
they sort of, like, the personalities that they develop for themselves, which means that, like, if you do it right, you do, like, their mid-heist, finishing that heist is like, and then going to the benefactor and, like, getting, like,
Hey,
paid and being told, like, hey, like, I think I have another job for you, is like all session one, which
did
then
I ever?
gives you
Yeah.
time between session one and session two to be like, okay, based on the way these characters played these things, I want this person to be this new identity, I want this person to
Mm,
be this one, so that you
that's
can
interesting.
find, like, pieces of it
And
that
find the
match, but
yeah.
also things
Okay.
that are, like, very different. As is You could also, like, you could play it off as like, uh the school only accepts, like, a certain number of students, and, like,
Yeah.
the students are all
Th-
like
they're
uh
assuming personalities that already have been accepted type of
yeah.
thing.
So
Yeah.
you're like, these five students were, like, accepted in, and we've paid them off so that they would not go. And so
Mhm.
you're accepting in their place and assuming their identity to go
Mhm.
to the school.
Oh, that's good because you could also go, it's like, this is what people will see you as. You have like a crazy ultra
Mhm.
illusion magic. So it's gonna be like this like Goliath is actually like, just a normal generic human, like the most
Mhm.
generic human on the planet. Uh oh my god, I had something before we let it go. Oh, I never told have I ever told you that that's actually the way you said about like doing like a previous mission situation, that's actually like for one shots anyway, my
Mhm.
favorite way of starting a session
Mhm.
because I like to tell people for one shots to make it easier. You guys know each other, you guys are aware of like abilities and such. That way, don't be afraid to go like, can you do? You all know each other
Hmm.
and you have a common goal type of thing. So I have done more than once a situation where it's like, you were all tasked by a local lord or something like that to retrieve this piece of art. You all track down the person that stole it, and we're actually going to cut to rooftops. There's
Hmm.
moonlight, and then this guy's running, and then a door opens really hardcore, and out steps you. I want you to just no roll. Tell me what your person would do in this I got the bad guy moment. Just tell me
Hmm.
what it is. And then without rolling, I let them all do like a intro into a movie sequence, like
Yeah.
Avenger style.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
all come in and do something cool, like, oh, I want to do a flip, and then like trip up and time up. And I'm like, cool, you do that. Another guy comes out. What do you do? And it's just like, oh, he comes out, but he really like lands on my sword, like whatever it is, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where it's like they can all just be cool for a
Very
moment.
narrative in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and it lets them do that whole establishing thing, and then it's just like, good one, Angels. Now here's your next mission, and then just
Yeah.
kind of like that's when I do it. So I try to truncate all that into 15 minutes.
I love that.
But pacing,
Yes.
I'm good at it. And
Uh.
um and because we're both so good at it, I think that we should just what we're gonna do is this whole adventure that we've just outlined, we're gonna write it, we're gonna publish it by Monday, because that's how long it would take.
Yeah.
We'll commission the art later. You don't need the art, just use your mind imagination powers, but
I'll
we'll have
just
all the
I'll just
words.
doodle. How hard could it be?
uh we'll scan those in. That'll be real. So keep an eye out for it.
I make no promises about this. Junie is making a promise of his time commitment to this. I make no promises.
We totally are gonna do it. It's gonna be amazing. Um,
Okay.
oh damn! I was gonna see how long we could let it last. And I'm like, oh, it's quiet. Oh, he's gonna let it ride.
Um
How quiet can we keep this going? Um,
No, I like what we covered.
yeah.
I think that
It
adventure sounds like a lot of fun. I would
Bridgerton brought it
absolutely
all
be down
home.
to do it.
Bridgerton brought it all back together with the gossip and scandal, and then brought it to the prophecy, and then it brought it back to school.
I
Well,
always
yeah,
I always enjoy when we have a like uh a vague place where we kind of like start with
mm-hmm,
an adventure hook and then it just evolves drastically by the
mm-hmm,
time we're done with
yeah.
it.
Sometimes you got to pivot.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works.
Um, Thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate you.
In my head, I was like, "Is it 8:30?"
We will be back on Monday. So we will see you then. Until then, remember to embrace the nonsense. Calls to action for this week. Look at
Uh,
your schedule. Plan out some stuff. Give yourself some time in your schedule to do like specific things that you want to accomplish. Um Junie, you have one?
yeah. Wait, was today Pack Rat Day? Oh, today was Pack Rat Day. I was looking at the things. Monday is Be a Millionaire Day.
So by
Everybody
Monday.
should get rich. Everybody should be rich by Monday.
Yep.
We do need
It's great
for
advice.
the reminder, we do need like a 10% reminder fee. So if you guys can I'll put my Venmo on the
Yeah,
screen right
yeah,
here,
yeah.
and then you guys can Venmo me.
I'm not gonna add that.
My you think you're doing it? It's gonna be me. I wish I had the. That'd be such a dumb. I was like, I never thought I'd use this button. And then I just have a Venmo button that just like.
Yeah. If anybody is not currently a millionaire, but by Monday is, you owe Junie 10% for reminding you.
Yes, yes. Um, you're welcome. So your call to action is become a millionaire. Venmo me 10%, and you know what? Make a prediction and be right about it. Let us know if you're right or wrong. But don't be wrong, or you owe me another 10%. You get me? So just let Venmo right here.
Man, this is like the one episode I'm gonna really like make sure I edit and put on when we put it on YouTube. It's gonna be so stupid.
Somebody's watching this episode on YouTube right now and is like,
I'm gonna get
there's
Venmo
no-
like
there's no link
$1,
on
and it's
here.
just like I was wrong, and I'm gonna get Venmoed $1, and people, I'm gonna be like, the hell? What's this about?
Perfect. Have
There we go.
a great weekend, everybody. We will see you on Monday. And
Oh. Pace yourselves.
pace yourselves. Bye, everybody.